Alright, I got this piece of 2.5-inch piping. 2.5-inch piping from an automotive intake. Notice it is steel. Do not use aluminum. It's actually pretty thick steel too. Alright, so now I'm gonna see what you want is this 90-degree bend. That's gonna help you for your air intake. Alright, you want to get it so it's almost 3 inches right there. I have an open bag of concrete, so for good measure, I'm going to add some concrete. Sometimes you just gotta know the bare hands and do it by hand.
Thank you for sticking around and checking out part 2 of this video. Here is the Foundry about 5 months later. As you can see, it is still in great condition. It has not been used yet, but it's been sitting outside in the elements for over 5 months. So let's get started making the lid. I decided to go ahead and purchase a large amount of Plaster of Paris, as it was cheaper than buying the little containers, in order to save money on this build. We start by putting equal parts of sand, cement with the large rocks removed, preferably, Plaster of Paris. Try to keep that low because the dust will go up and it'll get in your lungs. It's not good. And then a scoop of perlite, also known as volcanic rock or many other names, but usually found in garden centers. Then we go back to doing it all over again. Another scoop of sand, another scoop of cement. And you want to try to get out as many of the stones as possible because they make weak points and they do heat up and and could crack and cause your foundry to fail. Since this is the lid, I'm being a little more lenient than it was on the actual foundry itself, and I'm leaving some of them in, but you really want to take out as many as possible. As I continue to prepare this dry mix, I want to thank everyone for watching the first video and giving all the wonderful feedback. Unfortunately, I did run into several problems in between these videos, such as my camera being knocked over by my dog and having to get a shutter replaced. My Phantom 4 drone lost signal and fell into the river. So I've had a lot of camera issues this past few months and have been kind of out of it. But now I'm back and hopefully getting things done. Alright, now we take the dry mix and we stir it up thoroughly. And once again, keep it low, try to keep the dust down because you really don't want to be breathing this stuff in because it can actually get hard inside your lungs and have to be surgically removed. It could cause pneumonia and other issues, so keep it low. Once again, sift out any large rocks or any other foreign matter that you don't want in your mix. Keep mixing until all the colors are thoroughly blended and it appears to be one grayish brown mix. Make sure there's no clumps of any single ingredient. You want all the ingredients to be well blended. Then you can go ahead and prepare your lid mold. I use some basic liner of landscaping liner, which is typically found around garden beds, and just cut off the hosed like top. And then I made a center spacer out of some aluminum sheeting and an old roll from the center of tape, like the cardboard part, and placed plastic on the bottom to keep it from leaking, and then just used some electrical tape to hold it all together. If you don't have these exact pieces, don't worry, you can use anything that you can make a circle out of, even cardboard and just regular tape, or maybe even a solo cup for the center hole punch. Here you can see the progress on my mega shed, which has been taking up most of my time. If you want to see this mega shed build, click on this link here. Alright, so back to the lid. When you have everything set up and the dry mix completely blended, you can go ahead and add water to your mix. Now remember, once you add water to that Plaster of Paris, it starts to set almost immediately. So you want to do as least mixing as possible, but still get the product to get mixed thoroughly. No clumps. Then go ahead and pour it in your mold quickly and press it into all the spaces. You don't want any air cavities because that will surely cause failure. It's best to have someone helping you do this so you can get it done as quickly as possible. As you can see here, it's starting to set on me quickly, so I have to keep mixing constantly. Now I took some old U-clamps and then some extra pieces of scrap metal, put some nails through it and other things to add strength and rigidity to hold those handles in and to keep the lid from cracking under extensive heat. So I just used some old tie-down straps and weather strapping for you found typical construction, which are those straps with the holes in it, and place them, weave them through the lid itself. Then continue to add more of the mix on top of that, pressing it down and making sure that everything was compacted in there really tight without leaving any possible spaces for air. Now even with this, there still may be some air spots, so you want to try to either poke through with like a nail or screwdriver. And you can always patch up later after you pull it out of the mold, but you really want to do it ahead of time. It starts to get dry on me, so I added some more water to it and some more loose dry mix and continued to fashion it into the mold itself. Well, you want to do your best to make it level as possible. Also clean out the U-clamp holes so you can get a space to put something to pick up your lid with. Here I'm just sprinkling on some dry mix to make it a crazy cool effect on top. You can do it any way you want. You make it smooth if you want, you can leave it rough. I thought it would look cooler rough. I thought if it looked smooth it would look a little too manufactured versus homemade. So I decided to go with the rough look. And here it is as it is drying. And here it is the next day, about 24 hours later. You can see there is some air pockets, so I am doing my best to patch them up and smooth it out so there is nowhere for heat to cause weakness and failure of the lid. So use the same dry mix. You can even use more cement for this if you want, since you're really trying to just bond the holes together. That's what I'm doing here. Just take my time, rubbing around the whole thing and smoothing it out, so that not only does it look nice, but it will function better. Once you get it to your liking, you can go ahead and dust it off, and you're left with what looks like a primitive wheel. What I imagine the first wheel might have looked like before they used wood or any other material. I'm sure you also noticed by now that I made my lid very thick. It's about 5.5 to almost 6 inches thick. Some people make their lids only 2 to 3 inches and they do crack. I thought maybe the thicker it is, the better it is. So here I am removing the center using a piece of scrap wood to break off any excess, which will allow me to remove the aluminum sheeting that I put in there for the mold itself. Since it was just a little bit of masking tape, it's easy just to bend it in and pull it right on out. Once again, if you don't have aluminum, you can use a red Solo cup or blue one or whatever color you want, or any kind of material that does the same type of job for you. Once you confirm everything is smoothed out and there's no air pockets or holes, you can go ahead and sand off any kind of loose pieces that might get in your way from fitting metal through the hole. I decided to make mine about a ½ inch bigger than a soda can that would fit right through the lid without letting too much of the heat out. So it'll go right in my crucible to melt soda cans or any other kind of metal, such as like copper or brass. And here I am cutting up an old swing set pipe to use as the pipe that will go from the blower motor into the bottom elbow of the Foundry itself. I decided to make it at about 3 feet long so that it keeps the blower at a safe distance, which you can see up in the upper right hand corner of this shot. It'll keep a safe distance from the actual Foundry and the high temperature. I had to switch from the grinder over to just the Sawzall because it was taking too long. Then I clean up the edges so that it has a smooth fit and less restriction on airflow. You want to make sure this pipe is metal and not PVC because it will get hot. Although the blower motor is PVC, I feel that the 3 feet will give it a good enough distance to keep it from melting.
Shit. Starting to melt through the actual metal I'm using here. Turn down the heat a little bit. Alright, here it is now. Here's the rough version. I will definitely have to do a little bit of tinkering with it. In order to get it to work just perfectly. Alright, it's just rough right now, but as you can see, I have to tune it a little bit, but basically you can slide it down. I gotta tune that. It's a little bent out of whack. So anyway, you gotta maybe slide this down here. Lift it up like that.
Thanks for sticking with me on this project. I'm using a Salamander Super A6 clay graphite crucible. It is very important that you anneal your crucible by placing it on a about 500 degrees, 600 degree grill for about an hour or so. Make sure you do it on the bottom and turn it over to the top so that it gets even heat all over. After that has been annealed for about a couple hours, then you can take it off and either use it right away or you can let it cool down gradually. Use this rock to help stabilize it. Put that inside. I got off it.
Using a battery charger for a car, I hooked it up to the pump, air blower, and here she's running.
So I decided to move it in order to maximize distance between the mega shed and this. And while I was digging right here in my hands, I came across this right here. And the funny thing is, this was buried under like 3 inches of like loose soil. This is exactly what I was looking for in order to make my handle out of. And here it is, I found it. What kind of coincidence is that? Very crazy. Crazy coincidence. Maybe a little more. This is probably one of the only annoyances and setbacks I can see with using the bottom intake instead of the side intake, is that you have to deal with digging out a path for it. For the blower motor.
I moved it over so that it'll be out of the way, farther away from the shed here. Apollo, get out of the way.
I'm sure I'm gonna get many questions down in the comments area asking why I didn't just bother to weld the joint right there instead of using tape. I thought about it, but then I realized it would be a lot harder to move the whole apparatus if it had a long pipe welded to it. So we want to test this for now. If it doesn't work, then I will go ahead and weld it. Alright, I welded on some extra hooks onto the lid so it'll be easier to pick up with a larger metal pipe for safety. A little hard to light, so I poured some tiki torch oil on there in order to hopefully give it some more motivation to light. Get that underneath there like that.
Let's zoom that out so you can see the impact adding some air has on this thing. Now, that's what I'm talking about. I must say, I think the forge is ready to melt some metal. Who's with me? It's kind of hard to see in the light, but that's a big ass flame coming out of there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but already there's a little damage to the side. I hit it a little hard, and it's melting. But if it melts off, it's okay. It might just smell bad for a little bit, but it'll be all right. Now, that's just to move it around, but tongs and pliers with gloves on, of course, to actually move it into its final position. Just to show you how it will work. But I'm gonna try to level it out a little bit first on the bottom, so that the crucible can stay in the middle, and line the sides. There's some more. So to help, get a little assistance. There we go. Hard to see, but there's actually a 2-foot flame on top. It's kind of bright out here, it's hard to see it. But trust me, it's there. Like I said, you can see in there how hot it is. So, whoa, it's melting before I even get it in there. Turn the fan off. Must be a tight. Look, and they go right. They melt right in. Metal. That little flash is awesome. Jeez, it's like pushing butter into a hot pan. That's crazy. I made a really basic little mold out of this block of 2x6 or 2x8. Using just a circular saw and a grinder inside. Do it ahead of time. I did let it cool down. I went to go make that mold, so I'm gonna check it now and add some more. Add some more charcoal. You're gonna be very careful while doing this step. You don't want to burn yourself. Carefully. We'll give it a little more oomph. It's dancing. The problem is that the fuel is burning a lot faster now that it's up to temperature. So you gotta constantly refill it. So now this is probably why most people turn version of propane because it's almost a steady flow of fuel. Let's talk about it right now. A lot hotter now than it was 5 minutes ago, I'll tell you that. Kind of hard to see with the camera, but this is liquid in here right now. It's kind of like a gravy almost. You can see there's slag on top of shiny aluminum. So you gotta let it melt a little more, get that slag off of there. A lot of slag on there. Look how cool that looks. Got a nice little aluminum finish now. I don't want to show you this, I want to be honest. This is the dangers of pouring concrete or pouring in two separate batches. Notice on the left, the lid split in half. I want to pick up after being heated. So when you make your lid, make sure you try to do it all in one pour. It's very important. I fashioned a little slag scooper out of some metal fencing. I just have to get the slag out. Careful, because it is extremely hot. I think we're running out of fuel, so it's cooling down too quickly. Just for fun, I'm going to throw some piece of side downspout, aluminum downspout, see it melts. As carefully as possible. That's the problem with using a wood mold, is that it might burn the wood away. Well, all we can do is see what it looks like when it cools. Bowl just so I have it. I don't know what else to do with it at this point. So that might be all slag. Who would have thought I'd be shaking liquid aluminum like this? I'm gonna, oh jeez. Oh, I just effed that up real bad. Oh well. I'm gonna dump that in the water, crunch it real quick. Alright, here we are the next day. I just cleaned out the Foundry with a blower. As you can see, it did pretty well. I mean, like, there's some damage, like this little butt right here, like it's not started to come off. I mean, there is some like micro cracks. I don't know if you can see it. I focus this better, see the little micro cracks. And I mean, some of the inside wall came off sort of like plaster does when it's like on like stucco. I mean, it's plaster, but like stucco does. So I don't know if it's because of the plaster or the sand or what, but I mean, it worked for what I wanted to do last night, and it'll probably be able to do another casting or two. I just don't know if you'll be able to get repetitive uses out of it, like more than like three to five. I'm not sure what would be the best way to go about making it stronger. I don't know if it would be better to add more concrete to it, or I'm just not sure. I'd look it up. As you can see, it held up pretty well. Of course, the plastic started to melt when the lid started letting the heat come out the side. As you can see, it started coming out the side, and the flames would get under here and melt it. So I just kind of helped it along and made it all come off. But the sides aren't melted, and it did pretty well, so we'll try it again. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the Foundry as it sits. It has already been fired up, and now we're going to try another firing. This time we're going to be making a brass cymbal. And that's with the fan off. Alright, now because the crucible is still protruding until the charcoal melts down, I'm going to use this rotor from a truck to try to cover it gently. Whew, it's hot already. Alright, that'll give it enough room to air out but stay hot, so let's see how that works. There we go. Let the lid melt off a little bit. Look at that. There's the bullets. Alright, first step is we're going to make sure there's no live ones in there. I already pulled out 2 live ones that would not have been good in there. They could have, I don't think it would have exploded or what would have happened, but always safer to not have them in there. Alright, using a stainless steel bar shaker top, I'm just to pour the brass into the crucible. Turn off the air for just a moment. Whoa, that thing is glowing red. Man, it is glowing. Woo! Now, I didn't want to do this, but I guess I have to. The Crucible. Whew, it's hot in there. I need the Crucible lifting tongs. Remember these bad boys from another episode? Alright, the problem is Crucible has now set the whole thing on fire pretty much. I had to get all that out of there. Oh wow, that thing is hot. Ooh, it's hot. Set it down right there for a moment. Add in a bit more charcoal. It wasn't doing bad before, now that it's a little bit melted. Alright, so I hope everybody learned why you don't want to use a plastic pot for your crucible. I mean for your foundry. Yeah, it's simple and easy, but you do run the risk of melting the whole damn thing. I'll go ahead and add them in now. I don't know if y'all see those weird colors coming out of there, but it's like green, white. I made this little thing right here to add some more safely the distance. I decided to turn the rotor over to maximize the inside of the crucible. That's how that goes. Kind of hard to get the shot, but there you can see there's brass shells melting inside of there. There we go. You see them? Melting really nicely inside the red hot crucible. Needs more charcoal. Alright, I don't know why. I don't know if it's just not hot enough because the lid's leaking too much, or because I don't have borax, but it's not melting the way I want it to. It's turning into like a powder, but it's not turning into liquid. So I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's almost like a weird version of Play-Doh. It's like it's not melting, but it's I guess this is the last chance to see what happens after this. Here it is, the last ditch effort. Using a frying pan as a makeshift lid. Now what do you do when the freaking thing just... Sometimes I do drastic things and you do that. Alright, what happens when you spin it into a superheated pan? Will it incinerate? Turn into water vapor? What will happen? Oh! As you can see, it turns into little balls that just float. They don't sink, they just float. Look. Isn't that crazy? There you go again. There's no chemical in it, it's a regular white hot pan. That's all it is. A little bit of water. The pan is so hot that the water just can't even look. Look, it's moving by itself now. Look, I'm not even doing anything. It's moving by itself. Look, it's still moving by itself. How crazy is that? See what's up to that? Alright. As the Foundry is also a forge, back to forging my knife. That's a good red hot right there. Looks like I melted a little bit of wax. Fell out of the Crucible. This is a big ass brass ingot. Oh, I guess that's another one down. Man, they don't make frying pans like they used to. So you've been following along, I ran out of charcoal, so I've been using wood to burn this. This is a completely wood-fed fire. Just pieces of plywood, 2x4s, whatever I had handy. The Foundry is starting to fall apart now, so I'm just doing whatever, having fun with it. And there goes the lid. having a real anvil would come in handy.